Hi, everybody. It's Miss Celeste here, and I'm your professor for ECE 602 for Child, Family, and Community. We are now making it into week 3, part 9 of our course objectives. And again, the idea behind these videos are just to give you some insight into the course objectives, some specifics in these areas, and some helpful examples in addition to our live sessions that we do weekly. But before I get started, I just want to make sure that we are understanding the assignments for week 3 for ECE 602. We have our discussion, which is always due on Wednesdays. The replies are always due on Saturday, but I do need those to be done on separate days prior to Saturday. The discussion is a big part of this course, specifically because it is an online course. It's just our, time and opportunity to have some meaningful conversations with our peers and also with me. So when we're collaborating daily, it just kind of gives that more meaningfulness to what we're sharing weekly. In addition, we have our journals, which are due Saturdays always, and assignments, of course, are due on Sunday. In regards to our assignment, just if you have any questions, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to support you any way I can. I also recommend, now that we're in week 3, if you want to send any assignments early and would like some feedback before Sunday, you're more than welcome to do that as well. And then again, our practicum, which is something that needs to be done within a 3-month period. It is the 45 hours of hands-on experience inside a classroom. But again, before you start that, I do need to approve those locations before you start. So please get all that information to me if you haven't already. All right, so let's get started. So being able to identify the needs of socializing and specifically the families, we have to talk about school readiness. We have to understand what that means. How do we support that? How do parents support their children? We're going to talk a little bit about the kindergarten readiness, which always is a big topic because a lot of children do start school at the kindergarten level. Although some children do go to preschool or primary school, just depending on the parent's preference, but a lot of children do start school at the kindergarten age. So I'm just going to share some helpful suggestions and some great conversations that you could have with your parents within your classroom if you are teaching kindergartners, and also understanding peer groups within that socializing aspect and how much it means for families to be included in that. Okay. But first, let's start with this. So for early childhood programs to be positive socializing agents, the partnership model must be in place. I took this quote out of our text, which is on page 133. I really felt that it just shared a lot of insight into the word, specifically partnerships. Partnerships are something that we need to establish within our school community, something that we need to spend a lot of time doing and building those connections with parents, bringing them part of the process, even more so than we do already. A lot of that does sometimes look like a specific model that you may follow. It also may definitely be a policy, possibly, within your school policies at your school. But if it's not yet, I recommend that you start having these creative conversations with your leadership, so you can really bring in more of the partnership aspect, within your school community. Because as we always say, it takes a village to raise a child. And I'm a big, big believer that we have to incorporate parents within our environments, because we also have to get to know what the environments are outside of our classroom, because we have to bring those two together to really support children in their learning. So let's talk about school readiness. So There's a huge issue in early childhood education that has an effect on socialization in school readiness. The readiness approaches become problematic, when they are more concerned with, say, specific academic skills, without really thinking about that social emotional development that really plays a big part in getting children ready for school, right? Um, I do feel, though, the topic of social emotional is something that has been brought to the forefront, which is very important. It makes me really happy because I would say even a few years ago, I didn't hear a lot of that specific development being discussed as often as it should. Socialization also affects, many areas of development, and why we want to encourage those great conversations, those peer interactions, for children so they can build, their inner self-confidence, their independence, their communication, the way they communicate with others, and also listening, which is a big part of the learning process as well. So how do we achieve that, within the kindergarten readiness? Well, going back to the social emotional aspect, we have to think there is a big role that health and social emotional stability in the early years are the real roads to later achievement. We really have to kind of lay the foundation to these specific areas so children can successfully, conquer a challenge, be eager to get through that challenge, and not be so timid to those challenges. We really want them to exercise their cognitive development, their creativeness, their just really trying to not veer from solving a problem, because there's going to be many, many problems that they're going to face, challenges that they're going to face, and it's all about how they get through it. And so when they come to us in, say, preschool or even kindergarten, they're looking for that support. So we have to supply many opportunities for them to exercise that. One I recommend is a lot of role playing. So they have to see real life examples. They have to see you, the teacher, included within that example, and conversation, because it just really brings such a meaningful impact into what you're trying to relay or teach. But in addition, we have to think about the conversations that we're having. Often how much we are talking about our feelings, how much we are being, accepting to those feelings, meaning saying it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to get upset for that matter, because something is kind of stemming from that anger and that sadness or whatever it may be. So we have to really sit down and really understand what's happening. What I really, love to recommend is something that I had in my classroom, which was called the Peace Corner. And the Peace Corner's purpose was really just an area for children to go, either with a peer and solve a problem, or even just by themselves if they need to take a break and kind of remove themselves from the environment, because possibly they're having a hard time, or they're upset, or maybe they just need a break, right? We all need those sometimes. And I really felt that peace area was more set to have a positive tone versus you're in trouble or you did something wrong. There's many, many situations that children clearly know that it's not okay, right? But let's talk about more what is okay. And so I really like to have more of those conversations if I really want them to understand the positiveness out of it. Yes, of course, we have to say this isn't okay or whatever the behavior was. But I think sometimes we forget to talk about what is okay to give them some ideas or suggestions of what they can be doing. So just a little suggestion that you can put, within your classroom, or possibly maybe you have some other ideas that you do now. So please remember to share those at our live session. All right, let's talk a little bit about peer groups. So what makes up the peer group for young children? Well, that could be many environments. That could be maybe the apartment complex that they live in, it could be the neighborhood, it could be the school. The peer groups also teaches a set of lessons that children don't get from adults. Some of these lessons are in areas that are sensitive, more so to their needs. And then sometimes, when we talk about TV also has an influence on children, from a very young age. It just obviously depends what they're watching, and affects their cognitive development as well as their social development. So what they're seeing and watching others doing is something that possibly can lead to what they're going to do, or how they're going to think, or how they're going to solve a problem, or how they're going to treat others. So I always try to have conversations about the different effects that maybe children are hearing or seeing, to parents. So I encourage you to kind of have these conversations, because some parents don't really understand the effect that some of these devices may have. So sometimes when I have those conversations, it kind of opens a whole new window of opportunity for them to learn even more about it, and then also include other possibly different shows, or even more time with them, of course, is something I always recommend. Not to say that TV isn't, something that children should not be doing, but maybe just lessening the time that's happening. And lastly, thank you so much. This is the end of our clip here. And so I will see you next time. And if you have any questions, please reach out. My email is there. But I will see you at our next live session. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.